Hello, I'm happy to see everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, hello. Let's start with questions and answers. Oksana asked to read a question on her behalf from Eugene in Odessa. He asks, Type 2 diabetes. Is it a chronic or acquired condition? How can it be treated? Is it possible at the Amrita Center?
Chronic and acquired condition are essentially the same thing. There's no difference. A chronic condition means it's recurring or persistent. There are two types of chronic conditions, recurring ones and those that persist without resolving. All chronic diseases are acquired. Of course, there are congenital conditions which can also be chronic. At the Amrita Center, type 2 diabetes can be treated by using specific seeds that lower blood sugar levels and applying relaxation techniques, which can help to some extent. First and foremost, one must cleanse the fourth energy layer, focusing on the energies of water and the sun. Typically, type 2 diabetes is associated with blockages in the energy layers of water and the sun on the fourth energy layer. If these blockages are not addressed, it's impossible to cure a chronic illness, as the pancreas cannot function without energy. It requires energy. Without energy, it won't function no matter what you do.
A bit about asceticism practices. Helen has a question about treatment through static exercises. I currently do the diamond pose on 5 energy layers while also practicing other postures. One day I'll sit in the diamond pose on 5 energy layers, the next day I'll stand on 3 energy layers, and the day after that I'll sit in half lotus pose on 2 energy layers. Is this approach acceptable? Does such a practice cause harm, and does it even make sense? Should I stick to one posture, or is it better to vary them?
It's better not to do it this way. It's better to practice on 5 energy layers every other day. One day on 5 energy layers, the next day on 2-3 energy layers, then back to 5 energy layers, and then again 2-3 energy layers. If you follow this pattern, the cleansing will be sufficient. If you only practice 5 energy layer static exercises 2-3 times a week, the cleansing will be inadequate and a deficit of water energy will accumulate. The best approach is to practice cleansing on 5 energy layers at least 4 times a week. The sun is shining on me, so I'm sneezing a bit.
Bless you. Igor from Odessa asks, are chronic diseases predetermined by fate, or do they result from an improper lifestyle?
Both. When a person is born, they may have a predisposition to blockages. That's determined by fate. Predispositions can be aligned along a straight path. This means they indicate chronic conditions, which are predetermined by fate. Whether they manifest or not depends on your lifestyle. If you cleanse your energy layers from a young age and engage in asceticism practices related to water, air, and the sun, where will these chronic illnesses come from? They arise from a lack of energy in an organ. As I've already mentioned, if someone does regular cleansing, how could chronic diseases even develop? There's no place for them to develop.
Dr. Torsunov, there are questions about specific illnesses. Can we ask them?
Yes, you can.
There are quite a few.
Yes, it's fine. That's the topic.
Helen asks, if there's no overeating at night or in general, no excess weight, but toxins are present, where do these toxins come from?
That can happen. It's primarily related to negative emotions. A person is in a negative state. A negative attitude depletes sun energy, or rather it uses it up significantly. When the energy of the sun is overutilized in the body, there isn't enough left for nutrient absorption, leading to toxins. Negative mood, staying in negativity, depletes this energy quickly. The energy of the sun is consumed rapidly, leaving insufficient reserves for nutrient absorption. This results in toxins. Toxins can also accumulate when a person's fate limits the availability of sun energy. It must be gradually cultivated. If you practice asceticism and maintain regular fasting, your body's sun energy can increase by 50-70% within 2-3 years. The more sun energy, the fewer toxins. If someone doesn't live an ascetic lifestyle and their horoscope indicates weak sun energy, then even eating heavily during lunch, not just at night, can result in toxins forming in their body. Thin individuals can also develop toxins simply due to poor nutrient absorption. In such cases, all forms of asceticism practices are needed. Sitting in water, dynamic exercises, fasting, all are necessary to eliminate toxins. Food should be made lighter in this case. Everyone's karma is different. Sometimes very little is absorbed because the sun is weak. You must learn to live correctly. Not just, I don't eat at night, so everything should be awesome. It doesn't work that way. You must also perform asceticism practices. You won't escape from evil, Dr. Torsunov. No matter what, you'll still have to practice asceticism. Vova runs diligently and doesn't resist. He knows there's no escaping it. There's no other option.
Dr. Torsunov, I'm already enjoying it. I've relaxed and I'm enjoying it.
This means the asceticism practices have turned into a positive habit, and that's fantastic. When a positive habit forms, a person enjoys movement, meaning their energy channels are functioning well, and they've achieved a steady internal rhythm for cleansing the body. Cleansing should bring joy. Fasting should be enjoyable. Sitting in water should bring happiness. Static exercises should be pleasurable, and running should be fun. Everything should bring joy. This comes after 1 or 2 years of asceticism practice. You must endure for 1 or 2 years, and then you'll simply enjoy nature and life. This is how you should proceed. Next question.
Can chronic allergies be cured?
Allergies reside on the second energy layer. Most often they are a combination of blockages related to the energies of water and the sun. Movement is essential because without addressing dynamics, the sun's energy cannot be cleansed. It will lead to an overload. Start with 2 energy layers, though it's better to work on 3. If the issue is on the second energy layer, addressing 3 energy layers is advisable just in case. Some blockages extend to the 3rd energy layer, and if not thoroughly cleansed, they will continue to have an impact. Perform water cleansing, static exercises, dynamic movements, and fasting, all on 3 energy layers. Fast for 3 energy layers, that is 36 hours. It can be done on water or greens. The best greens are lettuce and spinach leaves. They make for the gentlest fast without causing overload. If you follow this regimen, after about a year, a person can rid themselves of allergies provided they don't overeat at night. They must also avoid eating forbidden foods at night, which we discussed in the previous lecture: meat, fish, eggs, grains, legumes, dairy, and free sugars. Free sugars means those not found naturally in fruits but as added sugar. Consuming them at night also triggers allergies. My wife has allergies. They're caused by her improper diet. When the season approaches, closer to autumn, she starts sitting in water, excludes heavy foods from her diet entirely, and hardly eats sweets. She stays in water, goes to the sauna. As a result, her allergies are almost non-existent. When allergy season begins, she hardly feels it at all. Just doing something for your health can help alleviate allergies. And if you perform all the cleansing practices as prescribed, it can improve even further.
Larissa asks, is it possible to combine fasting, walking, and water procedures all in one day?
That would indicate a highly developed body if someone can do it all easily in one day. But if a person is just starting with cleansing, it's absolutely not advisable to do it all in one day. Otherwise, it will cause overload. Take me as an example. I'm nearly 60 years old. About 6 months ago, I began practicing 36-hour water fasting. Before that, for many years, I followed intermittent fasting. I fasted for 16 hours and practiced sauna sessions. Using the sauna for 5 energy layers, I was able to cleanse my body easily. However, I hesitated to start fasting. Then 6 months ago, I decided to do it because despite all my asceticism practices, my weight began increasing. I realized something was missing, so I started 36-hour fasting. Since my running schedule is every 6 days, it constantly overlaps with my fasting days. I fast on Ekadashi, the 11th day of the rising and waning moon phases. This happens every 2 weeks. One time after fasting, I ended my fast and decided to go for a run a few hours later. I broke my fast with fruit, and 6 hours later, I decided to run. After about an hour of running, I couldn't continue because I started experiencing overload. I felt a severe weakness. It became very difficult for me. On the other hand, this is how I manage it. I run first and then fast the next day. I finish my run, have lunch, and start fasting the next day. This works better. I have friends like Anton, my assistant, who can run on the second day of a dry fast and then go to the sauna for a steam session. Nothing happens to him because his body is very clean. No issues at all. But if I tried that, I wouldn't get out of the grave. At my age, I can't handle such loads. However, I always combine running and sauna sessions. I run, then sit in ice-cold water, then go to the sauna, and return to the ice water again. I feel great. But I remember the first time I got into cold water after a run. My body became very stiff, and it was very unpleasant. Over time, the body becomes very resilient. Combining asceticism practices yields good results. For instance, in Samara, Tatiana remembers, right? It was minus 26 degrees Celsius. We ran in minus 26, and then I stripped down, went into the ice hole, and came out with my whole body stiffened. I also had to walk against the wind to get to the shelter where we changed clothes. No problem. Everything was fine with my health. However, after running in minus 26 degrees, I frostbit my cheeks, and they remained marked for about 3 months. My skin couldn't handle the load. The sweat froze on my face during the run, forming frost, and my cheeks got slightly frostbitten. Everything else was fine, but if I had done this 10 years ago, I would have definitely collapsed. It all depends on how well trained you are. So I don't recommend combining running and fasting, especially not both at once. For instance, running and static exercises can be combined. In my case, I run, then have a sauna session, and later in the evening during a retreat, I always practice the butterfly pose, a static exercise. It's fine, nothing major, a little tiring but overall manageable. Static exercises and running can be combined. But running during a prolonged fast is definitely risky. Here's one way it can be done. Let's say you start fasting in the morning and also run in the morning. However, fasting will be harder to endure because you've already spent a lot of energy. You run, have a sauna session, and then fast for the rest of the day. That's generally doable. It will make fasting harder but not dangerous to your health. However, if you try to run the day after fasting before breaking the fast and after fasting for 36 hours, you could suffer severe consequences. This is extremely dangerous. It's particularly hazardous for someone to go to the sauna during a dry fast. That could lead to leaving the body entirely while in the sauna. I know of a case, an acquaintance of mine went to the sauna incorrectly. He didn't alternate between cold water and the steam room. He just entered the steam room during a dry fast and never came out. Later, they carried out his lifeless body, so it's better not to experiment with such things. If someone has been doing 5 energy layer cleansing practices for several years, they can combine activities which will lead to even more effective cleansing, but only if the person is well trained. If you're just starting out with these practices or are older, combining such activities can be extremely dangerous. It's better to set a rule for yourself. One day, one asceticism practice. At least this way there won't be any overload. The one exception that works well is sitting in water after running, as long as the water isn't too cold. It's excellent to sit in cool water after running. These two practices complement each other very well. And it's beneficial to practice static exercises the day after water treatments. After running, it's best to do water treatments as soon as possible, on the same day or the next. This is very beneficial for health. And after water treatments, it's great to do static exercises the following day. This is also very good for health because you absorb water energy and now need to circulate it. You expend water energy during a run, so it's helpful to replenish it afterward. It's also good to sit in water after fasting because fasting also depletes water energy. In general, staying in water after any asceticism practice is beneficial. After dynamic exercises or fasting, it's great to interact with water. After fasting, it's best to avoid very cold water because combining fasting and sauna sessions immediately is excessive. If the water is below 25 degrees Celsius, you'll need to warm up afterward. Warming up a bit is sufficient. A full cycle isn't necessary. But very cold water should be avoided after fasting. Sitting in water the day after fasting is also helpful. That's how you can combine asceticism practices.
Svetlana asks, do passive and active cleansing near trees yield the same result?
Of course not. A tree is a unique entity that disperses water energy. It actively disperses it. This is particularly important to know for young children. If you can't hang a young child upside down or make them sit in water, but they have blockages, for instance, autism, if they can't interact with people, are withdrawn, cut off from others, sensitive to sound or light, it means they lack water energy. And they have water-related blockages on the 5th energy layer. A pool alone won't solve this. Even for a very young child, like 1 or 2 years old, simply using a swimming pool won't be enough. In this case, you absolutely need to activate the circulation of water energy, and this is where trees can play a key role. For example, I wouldn't recommend hanging a 2-year-old child upside down. Starting from around 4 years old, you can try this with small children. At 2 years old, they're still too young, but sitting them near a tree is highly beneficial. There are 2 ways to position them. In summer or even in winter, you can place them on something warm and use a special strap around the tree, securing the child so they can't get away. The child sits near the tree playing, but they can't wander off. For both a child and an adult, the tree clears 1 energy layer in 20 minutes. Means 40 minutes clears 2 energy layers, 1 hour clears 3 energy layers, 1 hour and 20 minutes clears 4 energy layers, and 1 hour and 40 minutes clears 5 energy layers. The second option is for children who refuse to sit still, crying and fussing. In this case, the mother can sit by the tree holding the child close. About 30% of the tree's cleansing effect on the mother will also be transferred to the child. Again, 1 energy layer is cleansed in 20 minutes using this method. This is called passive cleansing. It's clear that just standing by a tree already initiates cleansing. If you stand upright without leaning against the tree, the cleansing is more intense. However, even if you lean slightly against the tree while standing upright, cleansing still occurs. Even in this position with a slight lean, the cleansing is stronger than if you were simply standing upright elsewhere. The tree amplifies the process. In this case, it takes 13 minutes to cleanse one energy layer. This type of cleansing is much more effective than simply sitting relaxed by a tree. You could also just sit on a tourist chair and read a book by the tree, which wouldn't qualify as an asceticism practice. But standing upright by the tree is incredibly effective and powerful, and it significantly enhances the circulation of water energy in the body, targeting blockages specifically. For instance, sitting in water doesn't clear blockages, however, standing still by a tree does, and very effectively. Even sitting by a tree clears blockages. This is a unique form of passive cleansing. Incidentally, hanging upside down also clears blockages. But standing or sitting by a tree offers the most powerful cleansing effect on blockages. There's nothing stronger than this. Once someone has trained themselves, different poses can target various parts of the body. For instance, sitting in the diamond pose focuses on cleansing the middle body. Sitting in the butterfly pose targets the lower body. Standing against a wall focuses on the upper body. Usually blockages in the upper body are the most common issue, but standing is the most difficult and risky practice. While standing, a person might suddenly collapse forward because severe spasms can occur, or their blood pressure can drop due to blockages. This can happen so quickly that the person doesn't even have time to react, they just fall. This is why it's better to start training with the kneeling pose instead of standing. When someone kneels and falls, they can instinctively put out a hand to protect themselves, avoiding injury. But when standing upright, the body doesn't react as quickly, and the hand doesn't automatically extend as a reflex. When kneeling, the body has some balance and can stabilize somewhat. When standing upright, a sudden drop in blood pressure disables the vestibular system, causing the person to fall. Standing near a wall is the most effective static body position. This is because most disruptions in the circulation of water energy occur in the head. Most people overthink and worry too much. However, kneeling is an excellent preparatory position. Once you feel stable kneeling, you can try standing against a wall. When standing near a wall, always keep your feet slightly away from the wall. If your feet are away from the wall, you'll simply slide down the wall instead of falling. Otherwise, it becomes risky. If you don't position your feet correctly, you could fall forward.
Continuing the discussion about trees, Natasha asks, how important is it for the tree to be intact and free of dry branches when standing near it? I stood by an acacia for 65 minutes yesterday, and everything was fine. But afterward, I noticed the tree had cracks and rot. Later that day, my blood pressure increased. Could this be due to the old tree?
Yes, it's better to choose a tree that's not too old. Thicker, healthy trees are the best. They offer the strongest and easiest cleansing effects. For example, if the tree is very young, its circumference should at least match the thickness of a human body. For example, the tree's circumference should ideally be about as thick as a person's waist, roughly 50 centimeters. If the tree is thinner, it exerts a harsher, more rigid energy, making it less comfortable and more challenging to stand near. Older trees, especially those several centuries old and still growing well, provide incredibly powerful cleansing and can break through blockages with remarkable ease. The energy is so powerful that blockages are easily cleared. The faster the energy moves, the quicker the blockages are removed, and the less strain it puts on the body. Sometimes older trees have dry branches and cracks all over. It's better not to stand near such trees, as their energy feels unhealthy and can create an unpleasant sensation. It's also essential to consider the type of tree, as not all trees suit every person. Even within a species like maple, there are 12 different constitutions of trees. If, for example, maple is suitable for you, there are many different types of maple. Each type of maple has 12 constitutions. Among 12 maples, you can choose the one that suits you best, aligning most closely with your energy. In general, different tree species have different effects. For example, linden is excellent for treating insomnia, mental health issues, and calming conditions like cerebral palsy and autism. Linden is considered the gentlest tree. Maple is the second gentlest. Maple, elm, and Turkestan elm, Kara elm, share similar gentleness. Maple helps with joint and nervous system issues. Kara elm is more focused on healing the nervous system. Poplar is beneficial for treating women's health issues. Willow is great for bronchial, lung, and stomach conditions, as well as anything related to the second energy layer, including the intestines and skin. Birch also effectively treats women's health issues and the second energy layer. Acacia is good for women's health and the second energy layer as well. Pine is excellent for men's health, strengthening the immune system and fighting viral infections. Overall, male tree species are highly effective for various ailments. For example, spruce is used to treat oncology, including both benign and malignant tumors. Standing near a spruce can help shrink a benign tumor or potentially make it disappear. Pine effectively treats viral infections. Juniper, for example, is great for treating intestinal infections. Thuja is effective in treating reproductive and intestinal infections. Thick plum trees help with blood vessels. Thick cherry trees are beneficial for the circulatory system. Oak trees are good for the spine and large joints. Aspen is effective in managing blood pressure and mental health conditions. That's basically it. Overall, different trees address various health issues, making them all beneficial in some way. The best healers are thick trees. The thicker the tree, the more universally effective it is. Ancient trees, 300-400 years old with healthy growth and a circumference of 2-3 meters, are suitable for everyone. Such trees can be approached and used for standing or sitting nearby for healing. If a tree's base is too wide to lean against, you can simply sit near it and benefit passively. For larger trees, leaning against them for 1 hour and 40 minutes can yield significant benefits. Alternatively, you can sit in the butterfly pose or diamond pose near the tree. This approach directs energy primarily to the middle and lower parts of the body. Next question.
While Samara is preparing, there's another question from Louisa in Tolyatti. She recently had a virus. Standing in the Volga River on 5 energy layers helped her recover quickly, but she began experiencing dizziness and was diagnosed with vascular damage in the brain. What recommendations would you give for recovery? She can't run due to dizziness, but walks short distances, stands in the Volga weekly, and takes warm baths for 5 energy layers.
It's better to sit near a pine tree in such cases. I've mentioned before, but it's worth repeating. During a viral infection, it's not advisable to immerse yourself in cold water. While warm water is okay, cold water can lower the immune system by cooling the body, as immunity depends on metabolic activity. When the body cools down, the immune system weakens because immunity is based on metabolism. The weaker the metabolism, the weaker the immune system. It's best to engage in such practices when the illness is almost gone or hasn't fully developed yet. When you first feel the onset of a cold, immerse yourself in cold water, then go to the sauna, and then back into cold water. This significantly boosts circulation, and you can quickly eliminate the illness. However, if the illness has already progressed and you get overcooled, viruses might penetrate deeply into the brain and settle there. In cases of chronic or persistent viral issues, it is important to use our spray. It's also produced in Europe, I believe in Germany. You can order it in Europe or in Russia. If there are head-related issues, apply oil to the entire scalp daily. Also massage the chest, bronchial area, and back if there's coughing. If you apply the oil daily without washing it off, viruses are reflexively eliminated within about 7 days, even chronic viral infections. At the same time, sit near a pine tree. Pine helps restore brain tone, heal the nervous system, and eliminate viruses. Sitting passively or standing actively near a pine tree is very effective and yields good results in treating dizziness. You can also practice static exercises passively. In any case, if you're sitting in water or going to a sauna but not doing static exercises, dizziness will eventually occur. If someone sits in water without incorporating static exercises, water begins to accumulate in the body, leading to swelling. When absorbing water, it's essential to activate its circulation, otherwise health problems arise. In this case, you should still walk, even if only a little, gradually increasing your capacity to move, and also spend time near a pine tree. And refrain from immersing yourself in water during a viral infection. Take a break from cleansing practices and recover if you've already fallen ill. It's better not to get sick in the first place. Always use the spray on your mouth and nose before going out. That's what I always do. Whenever I go out, I always spray myself with the spray and I never get sick. But you all live so carefree that spending 2 weeks in bed doesn't scare you. Natasha is doing great. She also uses the spray. You don't get sick, do you? Come on, tell us about your experience with the spray and your results.
I use it, but I missed a few applications after swimming and I started to feel unwell. However, I'm recovering now, so everyone should definitely use it.
You see, you're experimenting, but it's essential to spray yourself before swimming, not after, and then you won't get sick at all. Every time you enter cold water, the only real risk is catching a cold, so always spray your nose and throat before getting into the water. That way you're guaranteed not to get sick. Even if everyone around you is sick, you'll stay healthy. Next question.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to ask about difficult life periods and chronic illnesses. Are they connected?
Of course, if you're going through a tough time, it impacts you directly. Everything flares up because energy blockages become denser and more rigid. When a bad period occurs, it always suppresses your energy. If it suppresses the energy of water, chronic inflammation flares up. If it suppresses the energy of air, you'll experience spasms, various body pains, and migraines. If it suppresses the energy of the sun, toxins accumulate. Therefore, during tough periods, you need to increase the specific asceticism practices that strengthen the energy being suppressed by the difficult phase. This will prevent the bad period from overwhelming you. You should do more asceticism practices than scheduled. For example, if you notice air energy depletion manifested through pain, spasms, migraines, or sleep disturbances, you need to act accordingly. In addition to running or walking for 5 energy layers once every 6 days, make sure to walk a little every day. This will continuously stimulate your prana and prevent depletion, and then everything will be fine.
Regarding trees, is it absolutely necessary to cleanse energy using them, or is standing in water and doing static exercises sufficient?
It's not mandatory, but it doesn't hurt. For instance, I have a bountiful harvest of pears this year, sweet and delicious, and now the question arises, is it necessary to eat them? It's not necessary, but if they're there, why not enjoy them? They're in my fridge, a whole box, and I eat them every day simply because I have them. Similarly, if trees are growing nearby, it's not essential, but it certainly doesn't hurt. If you have access to trees, why not sit near them? You're not even exerting yourself, just sitting on a camping chair and working on your laptop. Your energy levels for work will improve, and your productivity will increase. You'll find yourself working efficiently, feeling great because the energy of water circulates better and your mind becomes sharper. This is the energy of knowledge. Trees enhance the energy of knowledge. That's why it's good to sit and work near trees. You can actually find a thick tree somewhere at your country house if you have one, and equip a bench that comes right from a tree. And also you can put a table next to it. So you can sit by the tree for an hour and 40 minutes working on a computer every day, and you have passive cleansing. Isn't it great? Your brain works better. You receive the energy of knowledge. During this hour and 40 minutes, you can accomplish so many useful things. Your brain works well, and everything gets activated. Everything starts working fine.
Thank you, Dr. Torsunov.
I had such thoughts. I'm actually quite a dreamer. It would be great to create such a guest house. You can plant trees there, and as they grow, bend them to grow horizontally, then vertically again. And when the tree becomes big enough, build a small shed there, like a small bedroom. There you can put a couch right on the tree where it grows horizontally, and you can sleep there with open windows. Imagine if a child has autism, let's say, cerebral palsy, and they would sleep on a linden tree like this. Imagine the benefit. Or if an elderly person comes who can barely walk, they can just sleep on such couches on a real tree. Imagine the benefit. When a monkey sleeps in a tree, it gets healed too. It's something like this. Now, William has heard this and he is going to sleep in trees now. Okay, next questions.
Can the lecture be 45 minutes and then return to questions?
Let's take a couple more questions.
Can there be water overload if during vacation at the sea you do water cleansing for 5 energy layers every day?
We do such activities. We go to Georgia. Once we went to Issyk-Kul, and there we didn't just do water cleansing for 5 energy layers every day. Every day we first did water cleansing for 5 energy layers, then we sat in hot water at 40 degrees for 5 energy layers, and then back into cold water, and we did this 10 times in a row, and everything was fine. If you do such activities, they relax you very much, and then you feel really great. You return healthy and happy. If you're in fresh air, living in nature, you can do such activities, but if you do this for a couple of months straight, you're going to be overloaded. Well, just do 5 energy layers cleansing, sitting in water every day during vacation at the sea. We did it in Sochi too. Even though we had nowhere to warm up, we did it under the shower in the bathtub, and everyone felt great. We sat daily in 13-degree water in Sochi for 6 or 7 days, and it was excellent. Everyone felt really good. You can periodically do such activities like sitting in water every day. It's not dangerous. If you run or walk for 5 energy layers every day, of course, there will be an overload. Ian also tried it. They did a pilgrimage, and they had, I think, 7 or 5 days where they walked for 5 energy layers every day. Well, it's okay. They've all survived, but then you need a little rest from such a load. Of course, this is not for sick people. When a person is more or less healthy, you can sometimes do such activities, push yourself a little harder. It's beneficial for health. Last question, and then we'll continue with the material.
How to clean blood vessels from cholesterol plaques that appear even in vegetarians of 30 years experience. Static, dynamic cleansing, and fasting don't help here. Is there really no worthy alternative?
Okay, don't whine. What do you mean they don't help? Cholesterol is the 3rd energy layer. These are blood vessels, so static cleansing at least for 4 energy layers, water for 4 energy layers, and for dynamic cleansing it's best to run for the 3rd layer. Let's say you walk for 2 layers, then run on the 3rd, and then walk again on the 4th. For 1 layer it's just 25 minutes of very light running, and then a 36-hour fast once every 2 weeks. What do you mean it doesn't help? And how long have you been doing it to help? You need to first cleanse energetic blockages that will take 8-9 months, and only then cholesterol starts to heal. But what you want is to do asceticism practice for 2 weeks, and then have lower cholesterol in your blood tests, right? On the contrary, you'll have higher cholesterol because it will move from vessels into blood and increase. So make time for it. You've been accumulating these plaques for 20 years, and now you want to heal in 2 weeks. It won't work like that. You need to set aside a year and accordingly not eat what you shouldn't at night. And best of all, you should give up meat, fish, and eggs. If a person does all practices but eats meat, fish, and eggs, cholesterol won't go anywhere. It will remain in the body. Because with such food, you're suppressing the energy of the sun. But if you're a vegetarian, as mentioned, it's easier to cure atherosclerosis. But even vegetarians aren't immune to atherosclerosis. Because vegetarians might overeat flour products at night. They don't fast. Some of them don't do 36-hour fasting. Accordingly, if there's fasting but no movement, then without movement it will also accumulate. You need to do everything as a complex. If you do everything, then after about 8 months, cholesterol will start decreasing. But you want it to decrease immediately. It won't work like that. What other questions do you have about diseases?
Thank you very much. Just a moment. Now, all doctors prescribe taking supplements on a regular basis. For example, vitamin D, omega, iodine, iron, B vitamins. They say it's impossible to get these microelements from food in the required amount. Is this really true, or do we need to increase the sun's energy in the body, and can we be healthy without supplements?
Of course you can. I don't take supplements, and am I dead or what? People 100 years ago didn't even know what supplements were, and they lived fine. Now everyone supposedly needs to take supplements. Of course, if a person's body isn't working properly, nothing is being digested, then at least at the chemical level you need to consume something to improve digestion. Of course, these supplements, microelements, and vitamins are needed by the body. If a person's body doesn't produce them on its own, then of course you need to take supplements. What else can you do? In general, this is a common question, how to correctly treat chronic diseases. If you're already taking supplements and medications, you have high blood pressure, you have some pains, and you can't live without pills and supplements, or you're on replacement therapy. The answer is don't stop your medications, continue doing the cleansing. We work with the subtle energy body. The physical body won't start healing for a while yet, therefore, we don't touch it. Let it live its life as it does. If you need pills for blood pressure, take them. If you need pills for your stomach, take them. For joints, take them. Continue the treatment and continue doing the cleansing at your level within your capabilities. After 8-9 months, when your body heals, the acute condition passes, the aching stops, then you can start gradually reducing all medications. After a year or more, slowly reduce medications. But this doesn't apply to replacement therapy. If your thyroid was removed, it won't grow back as a result of asceticism practice. Therefore, we don't remove replacement therapy, we keep it. But anti-inflammatory treatment, various supplements, antibiotics, all of these we will gradually reduce, but not immediately, only after our body starts functioning normally. And discuss everything else with your doctors. It's not like you started doing cleansing and now you can get rid of them. You can't just get rid of your medications as you please. Until you've healed your organ, you stay on medications and consult with your doctors who prescribe them about how to take them. Because you're not specialists, I'm not a specialist. Doctors are specialists, so let them decide how you will take these medications. Similarly, you continue taking supplements for now. First, for 8 months, your energy channels will be cleansed from blockages, and then an acute phase will begin. When the acute phase passes, it means the 2 most difficult phases of treatment are finished. And it's time to gradually reduce medications, that's it. Because the organ's function will start to recover during this time. But these 2 phases of treatment must be completed. First, the energy channels are treated, and then comes the acute phase. Sometimes they overlap when the body can't wait because the function is severely impaired. It needs to heal faster. Next questions.
How do energy deficiencies manifest if a person practices spiritual life and tries to avoid bad habits?
This is another misconception. Dear friends, you think that if you practice spiritual life, you don't need to feed your subtle energy body. Well, by analogy, try not feeding your physical body. Let's say you pray, you don't eat, you feed on prayer. What do you eat? On the contrary, people who start spiritual practice begin to overeat blessed food even more. If you pray, then don't eat. Why do you eat? Because the physical body needs to be fed just like the spiritual one. You feed the spiritual body with prayer. Feed the physical body as well, otherwise it will become weak. And the subtle energy body is fed by the energies of nature. So what does your prayer have to do with it? If you don't pay attention to the energies of nature, your prayer won't help you. You will feel weak and won't be able to pray. You'll say, I feel weak, I'm not praying, Dr. Torsunov. And why aren't you praying? Because you don't do asceticism practice. When you start doing asceticism practice, the weakness will go away and you will pray. So don't confuse one with the other. What does your prayer have to do with asceticism practice? You'll still have to do both, my dear friends. You won't survive without asceticism practice. It's not just that you pray and you won't have chronic diseases simply because you follow a routine. You think you eat vegetarian food, don't overeat in the evening, pray, and therefore you don't need to do asceticism practice. This is nonsense because there are bad periods. They create energetic blockages. There are stresses, they create blockages. Sometimes you already have energetic blockages, and you need to get rid of them. A person ages and energetic blockages gradually accumulate and they need to be removed. Therefore, no one can live without asceticism practice. Even if a person practices spiritual life, follows a daily routine, doesn't eat meat, fish, still one can't live without asceticism practice. It's impossible. Next question.
If there's a severe lack of the energy of the sun, what can replenish it besides food?
Well, you can't replenish it with food. If there's a severe lack of sun energy, you need to fast on greens. When you don't eat, the energy of the sun starts to enter you. When you eat, it's used for digestion, but when you don't eat, you absorb more of it, you start pumping the energy of the sun and cleanse energetic blockages too. Because sometimes there's enough energy of the sun, but blockages prevent it from moving. It doesn't move normally because of blockages. And when you fast, you remove these blockages and also pump the energy of the sun into yourself. Both things happen. The same goes for staying in the sun. For example, a person during moderate sun activity, when the sun heats quite strongly, but not so strongly that your head is splitting. If you're in the south, it's morning time. Cleansing of one energy layer takes approximately 25 minutes. For example, if we speak of Bonn, there's no sun there even in summer. We tried doing cleansing there. It takes 40 minutes to cleanse one energy layer in the brightest sun. There must be no clouds in the sky. This is practically impossible. So come to the Caucasus, the sun shines right in your eyes. And it's the same in Moscow. That's why you need to go to the festival in Georgia periodically. There's enough sun there. You see, I'm sitting, the sun is cleansing me. Now, while I'm sitting, half of my energy layer has been cleansed because I live in the southern region. But in Moscow, the sun doesn't cleanse anymore. What concerns the sauna? Cleanse 5 layers in water, then go into the sauna. It's important that the sum is 110. When you're in a sauna, 60 degrees temperature, 50 humidity. The sum must be 110, then it takes 10 minutes per energy layer. It's comfortable to stay there. You don't feel anything at all, neither hot nor cold. And there you have cleansing going on, softly and gradually. Let's say you've cleansed 3 energy layers. That's already good. Then you'll learn to cleanse 4 and 5 layers. It takes 50 minutes. Then go back to water for 1 layer, and the energy of the sun will increase in your body. Then your sun cleansing begins. You don't even have to start with fasting on greens. You can start with the sauna. It's a very pleasant cleansing. It was hard for me to do exercises yesterday and the day before yesterday. I got up today and thought, something's making life difficult. I'll go to the sauna. I got into 14-degree water, sat there, then went to the steam room. I heated up the wood-fired sauna for myself, lay down, then went back into the water. They built me a sauna this year. Now I'm giving lectures from the sauna. I do everything in the sauna. I give lectures from the sauna, steam in the sauna. You see, I'm all steamed up. I give lectures from the sauna. I'll show you now. How do I remove the virtual background?
Click and select Remove Virtual Background.
See, this is my sauna. There's a fireplace in the back. There's firewood lying there. I'm giving a lecture from the sauna. And in front of me, there's sun shining through a big window. Okay, let's go back to the Maldives. Next questions.
Please tell us about treating chronic high blood pressure.
This is the 3rd energy layer. You need to stay in 28-degree water. Well, let's start with 3 energy layers. If the pressure is high, let's start with 3 layers. You should stay in the water to cleanse 3 energy layers. For 28-degree water, 3 multiplied by 14, which means staying in water for 42 minutes. Then further sit in the butterfly pose for 39 minutes. Then don't start walking for 3 layers right away. Start with 1 layer first. Well, you can also start with 1 layer in the butterfly pose. It's better to stay in water for 3 layers right from the beginning, but do static exercises for 1 layer and walk for 1 layer, then for 2 layers, then for 3 layers. Walk for 3 layers once every 4 days. It will take 2 hours and 40 minutes of walking, and gradually fast on greens up to 36 hours. So if you stay in water cleansing 3 energy layers, stand for 3 layers, do static exercises for 39 minutes 4 times a week, stay in water twice a week, walk once every 4 or 5 days for over 2 hours, and do 36-hour fasting at least on lettuce leaves, then after 8 months of such practice, your blood pressure will start to decrease. But before that, you'll still need to work up to reach 3-layer cleansing. But you shouldn't stay at 3 energy layers for 8 months because you'll have an imbalance between the first and last layers. Therefore, gradually bring everything up to 5 layers, even if you have high blood pressure. Don't be afraid. Blood pressure will decrease after 4 months already, but after 8 months it will start to heal completely, and after a year and a half you won't have high blood pressure. You'll cure it.
What about high cholesterol?
Well, approximately the same. It's the 3rd energy layer. It's all the same. The same practice exactly for 3 layers. You see, my method is good. It's all the same treatment in each case. Like when a person comes to the doctor and says, I have a headache, the doctor splits a pill in half and says, take this half. The person says, I also have hemorrhoids. The doctor says, well, then take this other half too, and make sure you don't mix up which is for what. I have the same treatment for everything. Read the methodical guide, treat everything. Most importantly, don't rush. I explained to you that most importantly, you shouldn't lower the water temperature quickly. In case of chronic diseases, only after 6 months can you lower the temperature of water to 26 or 25 degrees. Don't rush, do everything gradually, unhurriedly. Do everything gradually, increase fasting time gradually. Give yourself 3 months to reach your disease level. Let's say your diseases are on the 3rd energy layer. In 3 months you'll reach it. And then for another 8 months you should cleanse these 3 layers. Then gradually proceed cleansing the 4th and 5th layers. And so you gradually recover. Don't rush anywhere. After 3-4 months, life will become much easier. The illness will bother you less. If you've neglected the illness, it will get easier a bit later. In general, we have a whole eternity ahead of us. We're not rushing anywhere. We have health and happiness ahead of us. Not disability, wheelchair, and disability benefits ahead of us, but health and happiness await us ahead.
Can we ask questions about specific illnesses?
Yes, today we're covering everything. You can ask any health-related questions.
Then Helen is getting ready to ask.
Let's talk with those who are in Zoom. Let them tell us about their illnesses.
Alexander asks, do sauna and hammam replace cleansing through fasting?
No, they don't. Sauna and hammam only cleanse shrotas. They treat chronic illness, but sauna and hammam don't treat mental illnesses and subtle energy body. They only cleanse shrotas. They treat chronic diseases, but only fasting cleanses nadis. Moreover, water fasting specifically is best for cleansing nadis. Therefore, sooner or later, it's better to start doing water fasting. This will be a real, proper cleansing. Fasting on greens is also good. But other types of fasting, like fasting on fruits, they don't cleanse the subtle energy body. This fasting won't help you. If you think, I can't fast on greens, I'll fast on bananas, it won't work. This is not considered fasting from the perspective of treating the subtle energy body. This is not fasting at all. Next. Go ahead, Helen. We can't hear you.
Hello. I wanted to ask about varicose veins. I know it's in the 3rd energy layer. I've had visible veins on my legs for 13 years.
If you have a surgical pathology, if your veins are protruding so much that you can't walk, run, or do static exercises, then be careful. If you can do all of these, then do. What can happen? There are 2 options. You run to cleanse 3 energy layers and do water fasting to cleanse 3 energy layers. If you do all this for 8 months, cleanse the blockages, then continue for another 6 months and your veins don't reduce, then you need surgery. But then new veins won't appear, or you can continue living with them as they are. If it's a surgical pathology, nothing can be done. But it's unknown whether your condition requires surgery or not. I don't know the thickness of your veins, your body's adaptation capabilities. It's unclear. In some cases, veins disappear as a result of asceticism practice. Sometimes they don't. But they definitely won't disappear just from walking. You need to run for them to disappear. You need to run. At least run on the 3rd energy layer. At least run on 1 layer. And do water fasting.
How do you do water fasting?
36 hours of fasting. Tuesday is the day for veins, the day for blood vessels. You eat on Monday at 8 in the evening, and then break the fasting on Wednesday at 8 in the morning. In between, you only drink water, but you need to work up to this. Have you heard the lecture? First, you should fast for 12 hours on greens, then 24 hours, then 36. If you suddenly start doing what I said, you'll overload yourself, and you'll make your veins even worse. Approach this gradually. Don't rush anywhere.
Is it okay for me to run 4.5 kilometers?
If it feels okay, then it's okay. If you run to cleanse 4 energy layers, do static exercises to cleanse 4 energy layers.
I run 4.5 kilometers.
4.5 kilometers is just 1 energy layer. 1.5 layers. Well, run 4.5 kilometers, but don't start with that right away. First, walk for 1 hour and 40 minutes, and then run 4.5 kilometers. Then you'll run through your 3rd energy layer. You'll run through the 3rd layer, but until the 3rd layer, you can walk. This is a reasonable way to do it, but you run cleansing only 1.5 layers. What's the use? Your varicose veins are in the 3rd energy layer. You can run cleansing 1.5 layers your whole life. You'll never cure varicose veins. On the contrary, you'll only make your veins worse. That's what athletes do. The joints are in the 3rd energy layer. They train for 2 layers and destroy their joints. Because for an organ to heal, energy needs to reach it. And for this, you need to do asceticism practice on the layer where this organ is located. Veins are in the 3rd energy layer. If you don't do asceticism practice up to the 3rd energy layer, you'll never heal your veins. On the contrary, you'll make your veins worse.
Thank you. Hello, Dr. Torsunov. Olga is asking. I'm troubled by confusion of consciousness and bewilderment. How to deal with this? And should I get an MRI?
No, although with confusion of consciousness, maybe it's worth getting an MRI. Bewilderment simply means the energy of water and static tension are affected in the 5th energy layer. But if there's clear consciousness confusion and periodic loss of consciousness, then it's likely some serious issues related to the energy of the sun in the 5th layer, and you can get an MRI. There might be a cyst, or it could be just some circulation problems. In general, you need to get thoroughly examined first and then do cleansing. There can be surgical pathologies and there can be therapeutic ones. If it's a surgical pathology, a fist-sized tumor in the head, then forget about cleansing. You need surgical treatment if possible. And if it's not possible, then forget about cleansing too, because you can't be treated anymore. That's it. But if you have nothing in your head, then do cleansing. All of this will pass. If there's a small cyst, that's also not terrible. You can do it. It doesn't interfere with living. It can be dissolved. I know one young man. He does all the practices. He has a small cyst in his head. He doesn't even feel it. They just found it during examination, that's all. It's not growing or shrinking. He runs fast to cleanse 5 layers and nothing happens to him.
Did you want to add something else?
No.
Elena asks, please advise how a nursing mother should start cold water treatment. Can I start with contrast showers, or is it better to pour ice-cold water over myself? I'm afraid to sit in cold water in the bathtub because of my tendency to get cystitis.
You didn't understand anything, absolutely nothing. You weren't listening. I don't know why. Maybe you weren't listening because your child was distracting you. I already said that you start with 28-degree water, swimming or sitting in still water, not under a shower. That's not body cleansing. A shower won't help you. It will harm you instead. But if you sit in 28-degree water, cystitis is in the 2nd energy layer. Stay in water for at least 3 layers. Cleanse this blockage. Stay in 28-degree water for 42 minutes once a week to cleanse 3 energy layers. And also start doing static exercises at least 3 or 4 times a week. And you'll never have cystitis again, because you'll be doing everything correctly. If you stand under a shower, especially in cold water, if you're talking about cold water, of course, then you'll get cystitis. But if you stay in 28-degree water, stay in 28-degree water for half a year, then you can gradually reduce the temperature to 26 degrees, then to 25. Gradually lower the temperature and build up cold resistance over time. First, you need to get accustomed to these cleansing practices and give your body enough time to start the cleansing process. Don't try to suddenly lower the water temperature. Don't start running suddenly, or suddenly start fasting. This can be done by young people, relatively healthy people. A nursing mother's body is still sensitive, weakened, therefore be careful. Don't rush anywhere. Next question. You should read the Methodical Health Guide and do everything according to the guide.
Hello, Dr. Torsunov. A question from Dennis, Good People Club. What causes nervous tics in children, coughing, facial twitching, and what is the treatment?
If a small child has a tic, it's due to lack of water and air energy in the 5th energy layer. The treatment consists of cleansing 5 energy layers in water. If it's a very small child, they should sit near a tree for 1 hour and 40 minutes. We'll start with these 2 practices first. If it doesn't help, then add passive cleansing using the energy of air. Your child should stay in a salt room. First in water, cleansing 5 layers, then in the salt room, also 5 layers, then again in water for 1 layer. And this also needs to be built up gradually. And this way, the tic will completely disappear. Prolonged continuous movement is needed. If the child is not very little, you can walk for 4 hours once a week at their pace and do the dynamic exercises for 5 layers too. This is the treatment. Energetic blockages are cleansed faster in children. In about 6 months, the tic might disappear completely and never return. Next question.
Hello, Dr. Torsunov. Thank you for your knowledge. I have a question about the thyroid. Thyroid disease, fibrous formation. Does it belong to the 4th or 5th energy layer, like hormonal disease?
This is the 4th layer, dynamic tension and toxins. That means you need to start with water sessions to cleanse 4 layers, then do static exercises, then do dynamic exercises to cleanse 4 layers, then gradually start fasting to cleanse 4 layers. After some time, this nodule may begin to dissolve, or it may not, but in any case, it will never turn into cancer, and it will never grow. So for it to dissolve, you need to at least run at the 4th layer, do water fasting for 48 hours once every 3 weeks. Then there's a chance it will dissolve. For dissolution, you can also sit or stand with your back against a spruce tree. You can also wear spruce bark with roots on your left arm and left leg. It's better to do this under professional guidance because this is already a strong therapeutic effect. When you do cleansing of 4 energy layers and you want to dissolve your nodule, then spruce roots and bark are worn together on the left arm and left leg for a specific number of hours. I won't even explain this method now because people will start doing it on their own. It's better to do this under specialist guidance to know how it affects you so everything is normal without overload.
Thank you. Inna, your turn. Hello, Dr. Torsunov. Elena, if it's not too much trouble, could you please read the question? I have no voice today.
Is this your question?
No, it's not mine.
Then it's okay.
Is it possible to do water fasting every other day for a month to remove myoma? Would the effect be better, or is it better to fast for 36 hours once a week, stand in water, and run according to your recommendation?
No, you shouldn't overdo anything. Everything should be done according to the methodical guide. That means 3 layers should be cleansed by using water energy, by static exercises, by running, by water fasting for 36 hours once every 2 weeks, or once a week for 36 hours. That's the maximum. But if it doesn't help after 6 months, if the myoma hasn't decreased, then we use spruce roots and spruce bark. We can also add aromatherapy to treatment. We have lots of methods. We have special aromatherapy for myoma, for endometriosis, ovarian cysts, urethritis, prostatitis, benign prostate tumors. We have aromatherapy for everything. Aromatherapy, spruce roots, plus everything else you're doing, then it will definitely help. So you just need to gradually increase the load on the body and not rush anywhere. It won't grow anymore. Just do everything correctly, and that's it. The most important thing to understand is that when treating chronic diseases, there's no need to hurry. Hurrying is only needed when catching fleas. Because a flea will run away and you won't have time to catch it, you need to be quick. But in treating chronic diseases, there's no need to hurry. You just need to calmly move towards your goal, because the cause of chronic diseases is not that you have a myoma growing there. The cause is in the subtle energy body, and the subtle energy body cannot be healed quickly. It doesn't like rushing. You need to strengthen it gradually. When the time comes, the body will have energy, and it will start healing the myoma. If the body has no energy, we can help. We can direct energy using bark and roots, using aromatherapy. Don't rush. Don't hurry anywhere. If we direct energy right now, you'll get overloaded because you don't have energy for healing. If there's no energy for healing in the subtle energy body, the myoma will never dissolve. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. You understand? It will start dissolving when the body has enough energy for it, my dear friends. Try to understand this now. This is the most important thing that I've been conveying to you during these 6 hours of lectures. Don't rush.
Thank you very much.
Next questions.
What causes dark circles under the eyes? Nothing seems to help remove them, and my mother has the same but smaller ones.
If it's under one eye, then most likely the cause is the husband. But if it's under both eyes, then it's most likely related to cerebral intracranial circulation. That means there's impaired venous outflow. People usually think it's the kidneys suffering. Kidneys don't cause dark circles, they cause puffiness. When there are bags under the eyes, that means the kidneys or heart are suffering. That's fluid accumulating in the body, but if there are dark circles right under the eyes, it means venous outflow is suffering. You just need to do all asceticism practices to cleanse 3 energy layers. And gradually, when the brain vessels are cleansed on 3 energy layers, then the dark circles under the eyes will reduce. Next question.
Dr. Torsunov, our older boy has polyarthritis. He's 3 years old. What could be the cause? Is it from a past life? Then there was treatment with injections. It went into remission at 6 years. And now, at 12 years, polyarthritis has returned.
Is there joint deformation?
No.
It means there are water and air blockages at 3 energy layers. Yes, water and air blockages. Everything needs to be done to cleanse 3 layers. He's already older, he should stay in water, do static and dynamics exercises, and in about 8 months the joints will start to recover. There's no other way to cure it. If knees and joints are affected, the inversion table won't work. It puts too much strain on the joints, so he should stand or sit near trees instead, or just stand. You need to choose which static exercises to do. He needs prolonged continuous movement, gradually increasing the load.
Would an elliptical machine be suitable?
Yes, of course. How to transition to the elliptical machine. You need to walk for 1 layer with him. You just need to walk for 48 minutes at his average pace. And check the average pulse. There will be a specific pulse rate. And then training for 48 minutes on the elliptical machine with the same pulse will cleanse 1 layer. Because on the elliptical machine you don't see the distance. You don't know how far you've gone. And with children, their distance is shorter. It doesn't work according to the program. For adults, it's approximately the same, but for children, their step is much smaller. Accordingly, the cleansing works faster while they walk, but in terms of time, it's the same.
Dr. Torsunov, what about going to the sauna? Should he apply oil to the joints and sit in the sauna?
These aren't sun-related issues. What does sauna have to do with it? But it can also help to some degree, but not immediately. First, you need to stay in water, do static exercises, then dynamic exercises, and only then experiment with the sauna. Otherwise, there will be an overload. The sauna will just cause inflammation, and that's it.
Should we do fasting?
No need. It's a water and air issue. I don't understand. Did you listen to the lecture? Were you listening to the radio or eating during this time? I don't understand what you were doing. I told you everything. I said you need to cleanse air and water blockages, and you're asking me about the sauna. Sauna is related to the sun.
I'm just happy that we don't need to fast.
Let's continue with the questions.
How to understand which energy layer is affected if there's bile reflux into the stomach resulting in thinning of the mucosa, and there's a gallstone.
Second layer. The second energy layer is affected. The mucous membrane is suffering. But most likely, the third layer is also affected because if your gastroesophageal sphincter is suffering, if it's not closing, that's already the third layer. You need to do cleansing for 3 layers, and the gallstone means the sun is affected. You need to do all cleansing for 3 layers, staying in water, static and dynamic exercises, and fasting for 3 layers. And don't eat in the evening, because it's exactly eating in the evening that causes stones to form, stone growth. If you eat bread in the evening, stones start growing. If you drink milk, dairy products, stones start growing. If you overeat sweets, stones start growing. You need to do everything correctly, follow all the rules, and in 6 to 7 months it will dissolve. When you're doing all these practices, after about 4 months, you can also take calamus root. It dissolves the stone by itself, creating an environment where stones dissolve if they are phosphate stones. Next questions?
Dr. Torsunov, hello again. Dr. Torsunov, I wanted to ask if I feel normal doing all asceticism practices, cleansing 5 layers. Should we get medical examinations and look for any diseases? Because what if we don't know something and a bad period suddenly hits us?
One of my assistants was doing asceticism practices, and it hit her. It turned out she had a disease that she didn't know about for many years. She analyzed it later. She had this disease in her body. She just didn't know about it, so the medical examination never hurts. You must definitely get medical examinations, because there are diseases that you haven't cured. You had them before, but you didn't cure them. There are diseases that can be cured, and there are those that you can't cure by yourself with your own efforts, because sometimes our strength is not enough. Sometimes a person has such a tumor that you can't cure it with asceticism practices anymore. It needs to be surgically removed. It's too big. There are surgical pathologies that you can't cure with asceticism practices. There are therapeutic ones. There are congenital pathologies. That means something didn't grow together properly. You also can't cure it with asceticism practices, so medical examination never hurts.
I understand, thank you.
Let's say a child has intestinal obstruction. You do asceticism practices, but the child can't defecate normally. And it turns out one has impaired intestinal innervation, for example, or one has obstruction or partially impaired intestinal passage, anatomical pathology, then surgery is needed. And you think everything can be treated with asceticism practices. You must get examined. Nothing prevents you from getting examined. Just go get examined and learn everything about your body, what's happening in it. I recently had my teeth examined. They made me actually in St. Petersburg to get an X-ray of my skull and teeth. They told me everything about my teeth, what I have there. So far, everything seems normal. They suggested pulling out half of my healthy teeth and putting in artificial ones. I said, no, I won't do that. I didn't agree. But some teeth have cavities, and cavities can be treated. That's normal. And while the tooth is holding, why pull it out? What for? Let it exist. I had one tooth, only 2 walls left of it. There was a very deep decay, and everyone suggested crowns, every single one. And one doctor said, well, I'll try to treat it. And he treated everything. I went to him about 4 times. First, he removed the pus from there, from the root of the tooth. Then he filled everything, and that's it. He healed this tooth and said, I guarantee it for about a year. Well, I've had this tooth for 6 years now. They treated a small cavity there a bit. It's still alive, it's fine, and I chew with it and everything is excellent. Which is what needed to be proved. If you live correctly, everything in your body lasts for a long time. The system works. My teeth started deteriorating less because I've been doing asceticism practices.